babysitters who ran away. The imperial palace of Draconos was never quiet. It floated above a red planet, surrounded by warships and energy shields. Inside its golden walls lived the most powerful ruler in the galaxy, the Dragon Emperor. He commanded fleets, burned enemies, and ruled with fear. But none of that scared him. What scared him were his baby dragons. They were small, they were young, and they were absolutely terrifying. 3 baby dragons lived in the royal nursery. Each one was no bigger than a large dog, but their power was already waking up. Their cries shattered glass. Their tiny claws cut metal. When they were angry, sparks jumped from their mouths and burned the walls. They were babies, and they needed babysitters. That was the problem. The first babysitter was a tall, insect-like alien from the Zorthan hive. He entered the nursery with confidence. He had raised warriors before. He bowed and stepped forward. One baby dragon looked at him. Just looked. The temperature in the room dropped. The alien froze, dropped his tools, and ran screaming out of the palace. He never came back. The second babysitter was a robot designed for childcare. It calculated risks and showed no fear. It walked into the nursery and spoke in a calm voice. "Hello, young royal hatchlings." The dragons screamed together. The robot shut down instantly. Its systems burned from the inside. Guards dragged the smoking metal body away. The third babysitter lasted 5 minutes. The fourth lasted 2. The fifth fainted before entering the room. Soon, no one wanted the job. Across the galaxy, the job posting became famous. Wanted, babysitter for royal infants. High pay, high risk. No one applied. Inside the palace, the emperor stood behind a thick glass wall, watching the nursery. His massive wings were folded tightly. His golden eyes showed anger and worry. His advisors whispered behind him. "They are too dangerous," one said. "They sense fear," another said. "They are dragons," a third added. "Not children." The emperor growled softly. "They are my children." Inside the nursery, the baby dragons were crying again. The sound shook the floor. Guards outside held their weapons, ready in case the room exploded. Then something unexpected happened. A new name appeared on the list. A human. The room went silent. "A human?" an advisor asked. "They are small, weak, no scales, no claws. She is a nurse," another said, reading the file. "Experience with sick children, refugee camps, war zones." The emperor stared at the screen. The human nurse arrived an hour later. She did not wear armor. She did not carry a weapon. She wore simple clothes and carried a small bag. Her hair was tied back. Her face looked tired but calm. Guards escorted her through long halls. Some laughed quietly. "She will not last a minute," one whispered. "She will run like the others," said another. The doors to the nursery opened. Heat rushed out like a wave. The human stepped inside. The doors closed behind her. Everyone held their breath. Inside the room, the baby dragons stopped crying. They turned their heads together and looked at her. 3 pairs of glowing eyes. The air trembled. The human did not scream. She did not run. She slowly knelt on the floor. She put her bag down. She sat. Outside, alarms were ready to sound. Medical teams waited. Fire suppression systems powered up. Seconds passed. Nothing exploded. Inside the nursery, one baby dragon took a small step forward. Its claws clicked on the floor. A spark jumped from its mouth. The human raised her hand slowly, not in fear, but open. She spoke softly. "It's okay," she said. The words meant nothing to the translators, but the tone did. The dragon stopped. The second dragon tilted its head. The third sniffed the air. Outside the glass, the emperor leaned closer. The human reached into her bag. Guards tensed. She pulled out a small cloth and placed it on the floor. Then she did something no one expected. She smiled. The smallest dragon crawled forward and touched the cloth. The room stayed calm. No fire. No screams. The emperor felt something tighten in his chest. For the first time since their birth, the baby dragons were quiet, and the human nurse was still alive. The dragons were not just babies. The room was silent. Too silent. Outside the nursery, guards stared at the glass wall. Their hands were still on their weapons, but none of them moved. The alarms were ready. The fire systems were charged. One command from the emperor, and the room would be sealed forever. Inside, the human nurse sat on the floor, and the baby dragons did not attack her. The emperor narrowed his eyes. This had never happened before. The dragons were not normal children. Everyone in the palace knew that. They were born during a rare cosmic alignment, when ancient dragon bloodlines woke after centuries of sleep. Their power was unstable, dangerous, alive. The scientists had warned him. These hatchlings will feel everything, they said. Fear, anger, lies. They will react before they understand. The emperor remembered those words as he watched. Inside the nursery, the largest baby dragon lifted its head. Its scales glowed faintly, like hot metal under ash. The air around it shimmered. This was the one that had burned a wall when it cried. The one that had made a trained warrior kneel in fear. It looked at the human. The guards expected fire. Instead, the dragon made a low sound. Not a roar, a question. The human nurse froze, but only for a moment. Her heart was beating fast, but she stayed still. She did not stare. She did not look away. She breathed slowly, like she had done many times before. She had seen dangerous children before. Not dragons, but children who screamed when touched. Children who broke things when scared. Children who had lost everything. She understood fear. The smallest dragon moved closer. Its claws scratched the floor softly. Sparks jumped from its nose as it sniffed her sleeve. The nurse did not pull away. Outside, an advisor whispered she should be dead. The emperor said nothing. The dragons suddenly reacted. All three turned their heads toward the door. Their scales flashed bright. The temperature in the room rose. Guards raised their weapons. The emperor lifted one claw. Wait! Inside the nursery, the human felt it too. The shift in the air. The danger. The dragons were not angry at her. They were reacting to something else. She slowly turned her head. The heavy metal door behind her vibrated slightly. She understood. They were afraid. The emperor's jaw tightened. The dragons were sensing the armed guards, the machines, the hidden weapons. To them, the room was full of threats. The human nurse did something that shocked everyone. She stood up. Guards shouted, "Sit down. Don't move." She ignored them. She walked slowly toward the door. The baby dragons followed her with their eyes. One let out a sharp cry. The sound cracked the floor. She placed her hand on the door and knocked. Once, the sound echoed. Outside, every guard froze. The emperor's advisors panicked. She is insane. The emperor raised his claw again. Open the door. The guards hesitated, then obeyed. The door opened a small distance. Heat rushed out. The human turned back to the dragons. She spoke softly. "It's okay," she said again. "I'm here." She stepped back inside. The door closed. The room calmed. The dragons relaxed. The emperor's wings slowly unfolded. The truth hit him like a strike. The dragons were not violent. They were overwhelmed. They felt everything in the room, every fear, every weapon, every plan to control them. And they reacted the only way babies could, with chaos. Inside the nursery, the human nurse sat back down on the floor. She pulled something else from her bag, a small device. The guards leaned forward. The emperor's eyes narrowed. She pressed it. A soft sound filled the room. Not music, a heartbeat. Slow, steady, human. The baby dragons froze. Then something unbelievable happened. They moved closer. The smallest one curled beside her leg. The second rested its head near her knee. The largest one lay down in front of her, watching. The power readings dropped. The scientists stared at their screens in shock. The dragons were calming themselves. The emperor felt his breath catch. For the first time, he realized something terrifying and wonderful. The human had not controlled his children. She had understood them, and that made her more dangerous than any weapon. The moment the dragons chose her, the room should have exploded. Every sensor in the imperial palace said it would. The baby dragons were unstable again. Their power levels were rising. Red warning lights flashed across the control room. Scientists spoke fast, voices shaking. "This is the limit," one said. "If they release energy now, the nursery will not survive." The emperor stood still, watching the human nurse through the glass. Inside the nursery, she felt the change before anyone else. The air became heavy. The heat grew stronger. The soft heartbeat sound from her device began to fade under the rising noise of the dragon's breathing. They were afraid again, but this time it was different. The fear was not coming from the room. It was coming from within them. The human nurse turned off the device. Silence returned. Outside, the scientist gasped. "Why did she stop it?" someone whispered. Inside, the largest baby dragon lifted its head. Its eyes glowed brighter than before. Cracks of light ran across its scales. This was the moment everyone feared. The moment the dragons would lose control. The human nurse did not run. She slowly reached forward. Every guard shouted at once. "Don't touch it. Step back. She'll die." She ignored them. Her hand rested gently on the dragon's head. The world seemed to pause. The dragon's body went stiff. 1 second, 2, then its glow faded. It released a long breath. The emperor felt his claws dig into the floor. The dragon lowered its head under her hand. It was not surrender. It was trust. The other 2 dragons reacted instantly. One pressed against her side. The smallest climbed into her lap, curling its tail around her arm. The room temperature dropped. The warning lights turned yellow, then green. Scientists stared at their screens in disbelief. "This is not suppression," one said. "They are regulating themselves." The emperor understood. They had made a choice. Inside the nursery, the human nurse closed her eyes for a moment. Her hand shook just a little. She had been afraid, but she had stayed. She spoke softly, more to herself than anyone else. "You don't have to be strong all the time." The translators caught the words. The dragons did not need translation. They felt the meaning. Outside the glass, an advisor stepped forward. "She is dangerous," he said. "If the dragons bond to her, we lose control." The emperor's eyes burned. "They are not weapons," he said quietly. "They are my children." The advisor swallowed. But the danger was not over. Deep under the palace, something old awakened. A hidden system began to activate. Ancient safeguards, built not to protect dragons, but to kill them if they became uncontrollable. Red symbols flashed on a forgotten console. A machine older than the Empire powered up. Inside the nursery, the baby dragons suddenly cried out. Not in anger, in fear. The human nurse felt it. She looked around, confused. The walls hummed. The floor vibrated. She stood, holding the smallest dragon close. "What's happening?" she asked. Outside, the emperor saw the symbols and froze. "No," he whispered. The ancient system had decided. The dragons were a threat, and the human was in the room with them. The palace chose to kill the dragons. The ancient system was not alive, but it could decide who should die. Deep under the imperial palace, red lights burned to life for the first time in centuries. Old machines shook off dust and silence. Symbols older than the empire itself appeared on forgotten screens. Dragon containment protocol, active. In the control room, scientists froze. That system was never meant to wake up, one whispered. It was built to stop a dragon war. The emperor stared at the screen. His wings slowly spread. "Shut it down," he ordered. The answer came instantly. Command denied. The system did not listen to emperors. It listened to numbers. And the numbers said the baby dragons were becoming something the galaxy could not control. Inside the nursery, the human nurse felt the danger before any alarm sounded. The walls vibrated harder. A deep hum filled the air, pressing against her chest. The baby dragons cried out together, sharp and afraid. She held the smallest one close. "It's okay," she whispered, though she did not believe it. The largest dragon moved in front of her. Not away, in front, outside the glass. Guards shouted as thick energy shields dropped between the nursery and the rest of the palace. Heavy blast doors began to close. The nursery was being sealed. With them inside. "Open the room," an advisor yelled. The emperor roared. "Open it." The system answered again. Subjects classified as extreme threat. Purge authorized. A weapon hidden in the ceiling powered up. A beam designed to erase dragon blood. Scientists screamed. "That beam will kill everything inside." Inside the nursery, the ceiling began to glow. The dragons panicked. Fire sparks flew. Cracks spread across the floor. The human nurse did not run. She stood. She placed herself between the dragons and the glowing light. Every guard outside went silent. "She's choosing to die," someone whispered. The Emperor felt something break inside him. Inside the nursery, the human raised both hands. She spoke clearly. "No." The word was simple, but it was strong. The dragons felt it. They moved closer to her, pressing against her back and sides. Their fear turned into something else. Resolve. The beam fired. For one terrifying second, the world held its breath. Then the impossible happened. The beam bent. Not away. Around her. The dragon energy reacted, not in attack, but in protection. Their combined power wrapped around the human like a shield. The system paused. Error. Unexpected variable. The Emperor's eyes widened. "They chose her," he whispered. The ancient machine tried again. The power increased. The palace shook. Walls cracked. Inside, the human screamed, not in fear but in pain. Holding dragon power burned her skin. Her knees buckled. The largest dragon roared. Not like a baby, like a king. Its roar slammed into the system. Screens exploded. The beam shut down. Silence fell. The nursery lights flickered, then stabilized. The system went dark. Protocol failed. Inside the nursery, the human collapsed. The dragons caught her before she hit the floor. Outside, the Emperor moved. He did not walk. He smashed through the glass wall. Guards scattered. He entered the nursery and knelt, his massive form shaking. He looked at the human nurse, unconscious, burned alive. He bowed his head. "My children live," he said softly, "and it is because of you." But far away, beyond the palace, someone else had seen the system fail, and they were not pleased. The galaxy decided the human had to die. News travels fast in the galaxy. Too fast. Within hours, secret channels lit up. Military councils whispered. Ancient races watched recordings again and again. The Emperor's baby dragons had chosen a human. Not a commander. Not a warrior. Not a scientist. A nurse. Many saw hope. Others saw danger. In a hidden chamber far from the palace, representatives of powerful species met in silence. Their screens showed the moment the ancient weapon failed. The beam bending. The dragons protecting the human. One figure spoke first. "If that human lives, we lose control of the dragons." Another nodded. "Dragons that protect humans will never obey us." A third voice was cold. "Then the solution is simple." They voted. The decision was clear. The human must die. Back at the Imperial Palace, the nurse slept in a medical chamber. Her skin was burned. Her body weak. Machines monitored her heart. The baby dragons refused to leave her. They curled around her bed, glowing softly. Guards tried to remove them. They failed. The Emperor allowed it. "She is family now," he said. But danger was moving. A diplomatic ship arrived at the palace, carrying envoys and peace guards. Their papers were perfect, their smiles polite. Assassins. They moved through the palace slowly, hiding weapons inside medical tools. Their plan was simple. Wait. Watch. Strike when no one expects it. Inside the medical room, the nurse stirred. Her eyes opened slowly. The smallest dragon lifted its head. She smiled weakly. "You're still here," she whispered. The dragon chirped softly. Outside the room, a guard suddenly froze. His eyes went blank. Mind control. He opened the door. The assassins entered. Silent. Precise. The largest dragon sensed them instantly. Its scales darkened. A low growl filled the room. One assassin raised a device designed to stop dragon movement. The human nurse pushed herself upright. "No," she said. Her voice was weak, but the dragons heard it. They moved, not in rage, in defense. The smallest dragon leapt onto the assassin's arm, biting hard. The second knocked another into the wall. The largest stood over the nurse, wings spread wide. Energy filled the room. Alarm screamed. The Emperor felt it. He ran. The assassins realized too late. These were not wild beasts. These were bonded dragons. One assassin lunged forward. The human nurse did something no one expected. She stepped in front of the dragon. She raised her hands. "Stop," she said. The assassin froze. The dragon froze too. For 1 second, the galaxy saw something impossible. A human giving an order, and dragons listening. Guards burst in, weapons aimed. The assassins were captured. The Emperor arrived moments later. He looked at the nurse. "You should not have protected them," he said quietly. She met his eyes. "They protected me first." The Emperor understood. Far away, the council watched the failure. Their plan was broken. The human had survived. And now the truth was clear. As long as she lived, the dragons would never belong to the galaxy. The Emperor chose a human over the galaxy. The palace did not sleep that night. War alerts echoed through silent halls. Star maps glowed with red markers as fleets moved closer to the Imperial system. Messages arrived every minute. Warnings, demands, threats. The galaxy had made its choice. Now the Emperor had to make his. In the highest chamber of the palace, the Dragon Emperor stood alone. His massive wings were spread wide, touching the walls. His eyes burned as he looked at the stars. They wanted the human. They wanted his children to belong to the galaxy, not to themselves. Advisors gathered behind him. "Give them a nurse," one said. "Protect the Empire," another begged. "A war will destroy everything." The Emperor said nothing. Below, in the medical wing, the human nurse sat on the edge of her bed. Her body was still weak, but her mind was clear. The baby dragons surrounded her, restless. They felt danger coming. The largest dragon pressed its head against her chest. She held it gently. "It's not your fault," she whispered. Guards entered the room. They did not raise their weapons. "The Emperor wishes to see you," one said. The dragons growled. She stood slowly. "I'll go," she said. The throne chamber filled with power when she entered. Generals, advisors, and nobles stared. Some showed fear. Others showed anger. The Emperor turned. He looked down at the human who had changed everything. "The galaxy demands your life," he said plainly. Silence fell. The human nodded once. "I know," gasps echoed. "You will not fight?" an advisor asked. She shook her head. "If my death protects the children, then it's worth it." The dragon screamed. The sound shook the palace. The Emperor's claws clenched. In that moment, something ancient inside him broke. He stepped forward. His voice filled the chamber. "No!" Everyone froze. "She is under my protection," the Emperor said. "She is not a weapon. She is not a threat. She is family." Advisors shouted. "This means war." The Emperor's wings spread wide. "Then war will come." He turned to the stars and opened a galaxy-wide channel. Every system listened. "This is the Dragon Empire," his voice thundered. "You will not take our children. You will not take the human who saved them. If you come, you will burn." Across the galaxy, fleets slowed. Some turned away. Others did not. Inside the chamber, the human nurse bowed her head. "I never wanted this," she said. The Emperor looked at her. "You showed us something we forgot," he said. "That strength is not fear." Outside the palace, the baby dragons roared together. Not in anger, in unity. Their voices echoed into space. Sensors across the galaxy spiked. Ancient beings listened. A new truth spread. These dragons were not alone, and they were not children anymore. When the galaxy learned the meaning of human, the galaxy came anyway. War fleets gathered at the edge of the Dragon Empire. Massive ships filled space like dark clouds. Weapons charged. Shields locked. Every race was watching. Some believed the Emperor would fall. Some believed the dragons would lose control. Some believed the human would finally die. Inside the Imperial Palace, the air was calm. Too calm. The human nurse stood on the main balcony, looking at the stars. She could see the enemy fleets with her own eyes. Her hands trembled, but she did not step back. Behind her, the baby dragons stood tall. They were no longer babies. Their scales shone bright. Their wings were stronger. Their eyes were clear and focused. They had grown fast, faster than any dragon before them, because they were not growing in fear. They were growing in trust. The Emperor stood beside the human. "You should not be here," he said. She smiled softly. "I am where I need to be." The first enemy ship sent a message. "Hand over the human," the voice said, "and the dragons will be spared." Silence followed. Then the human stepped forward. Every guard froze. Every advisor shouted. But she raised her hand. "Let me speak," she said. The Emperor looked at her, then nodded. Her voice went out across space, carried by the Emperor's signal. "I am human," she said simply. I did not come here to change the galaxy. I came to care for children. The fleets listened. She continued. These dragons were afraid. They were treated like weapons before they could even walk. So they screamed. They burned. They fought. She looked back at the dragons. They did not need control, she said. They needed someone to stay. The enemy commanders laughed. This is weakness, one said. The human smiled. No, she said. This is humanity. She stepped back. The dragons moved forward. Together. The largest dragon spread its wings and roared. Not in rage, but in warning. The sound rolled across space like thunder. Sensors across the galaxy spiked. Power levels beyond anything recorded. But the dragons did not attack. They formed a shield around the palace. Protecting it. Protecting her. The enemy fleets hesitated. They had prepared for monsters. They had not prepared for loyalty. The emperor raised his voice one last time. You came for war, he said, but you will leave with a lesson. The dragons lifted their heads. And then, something no one expected. They bowed, not to the emperor, to the human. The galaxy went silent. A race older than most stars, bowing to a human nurse. One by one, enemy ships powered down their weapons. Some turned away. Others followed. No battle was fought, because it was already lost. Later, long after the fleets were gone, the palace was quiet again. The humans sat in the nursery, the same place where it all began. The dragons rested around her, peaceful and strong. The emperor watched from the doorway. You changed everything, he said. She shook her head. No, she replied. They did. He smiled. The galaxy would remember this day, not as a war, but as the moment it learned a truth it had forgotten. That humans do not rule with fear. They do not conquer with fire. They stay. They care. And when they are chosen, even dragons stand with them. Humanity. Fuck. Yes.